The use of nitrous oxide in England and Wales decreased amongst those aged 16 to 24 from an estimated 194,000 users in the year ending March 24 to 80,000 users in the following year. That is the lowest since records began in 2013. The government provides information to the public on the risks of using nitrous oxide, including on the drug information website Talk to Frank. The risks of using nitrous oxide are severe.
For the Minister's reply, and as he knows, it is illegal for anybody under 18 to purchase nitrous oxide. There is a growing trend, particularly in our cities and towns, where drug pushers buy literally dozens and dozens of canisters of nitrous oxide, fill balloons up with them and then market them and sell them to young people. The canisters are then dumped in parklands, grass spaces, back alleys, which are dangerous to the environment and dangerous particularly to young children. Has the government got a strategy for dealing with this problem?
It's a very real problem, and the noble Lord will know that when the legislation was passed in 2023 to ensure that we did put nitrous oxide under the controlled list, that has actually reduced the level of usage as a whole. I also am pleased to report to him that since in the year September 24 to September 25, there have been 242 convictions for use of supply of nitrous oxide, and there are 234 sentences to date, with some still outstanding for sentence. The government strategy is to make sure that we clamp down on this. It's not acceptable. The legislation should be enforced, but also it's very important that we have education for young people, particularly in schools.
My Lords, there are limited legitimate uses for nitrous oxide, yet the lawful supply of these canisters has created an unlawful, harmful supply downstream. Will the noble Lord the Minister commit today to review, to establish, 1, the volume of nitrous oxide being sold, and 2, whether the benefits of the legitimate trade in fact outweigh the social cost of the unlawful trade which follows from it?
Well, as the noble Lord has mentioned, there are a number of legitimate uses for nitrous oxide: medical and dental and veterinary uses, food sector uses in cafes, amateur bakers, fuel additive for motor racing, academic research. And again, what the legislation which was passed under his government has tried to do is to get the balance right between legitimate use and illegitimate use. As I've said to the noble Lord a moment ago, the number of convictions has increased significantly for illegal use and supply. That is an area the police are focused on. We keep all matters under review, but the legislation was only passed some 3 years ago, and I think it's right that we do let it take its course.
It's very welcome that the rates of illegal use have gone down and convictions have gone up. But would my noble friend, the Minister, following on from Lord Storey's points, agree that there can be a tension between particularly young people seeking help or, in fact, wanting to report a crime and a fear of prosecution when doing so? So can he ensure that there are ways to overcome that tension, perhaps through confidential helplines or specially designated teachers, police officers or social workers, so that they can ensure that people can come forward for help or to report issues without fearing that they might be prosecuted?
It's a very real tension that my noble friend mentions, and I think it is important that, particularly in a school or youth club context, young people who see the use of nitrous oxide have an opportunity to talk to a teacher, to a parent or to a youth worker, to both understand the consequences of that use, but also to find mechanisms to help other young people stop using that particular product. We do keep under review very strongly a whole range of mechanisms, and both the Department of Education in England and the Department of Health look at both information and support to young people to help meet the very objective my noble friend has mentioned.
My Lords, as the use of nitrous oxide involves the substance hitting the opioid receptors, which is like the heroin and other drugs, is the government going to undertake education of young people in schools for whom the addictive potential of all of these substances is much higher than in the older population. And yet sometimes substances like nitrous oxide are used by dealers as an inroad to begin to create an addiction and then to get people onto much more harmful substances after that.
Well, the Noble Lady again strikes at the heart of this. The illegal use of nitrous oxide is currently illegal under legislation passed by the previous government. There have been convictions, but there needs to be both education and support to young people, particularly about the dangers, because nitrous oxide can lead to death at first use. And it's also important that the addictive nature of that is put into education's lesson plans and other supportive material for parents as well as for young people. And it's something we will certainly keep under review to meet, again, the objectives the Noble Lady has mentioned.
White paper on policing recognises the need for a strong national forensic service. But the issue is going to be how it keeps up with the huge number of drugs that are appearing on our streets almost, it seems like, on a daily basis. What steps are the government taking to ensure that the service has the staff, the technology, but crucially the speed of testing required to support effective enforcement and to keep people safe?
Well, the Noble Baroness mentions the forensic services, and it's really important that we keep that up to date. As she mentioned, in the policing white paper, we're having a review of how that is undertaken. It's extremely important, not just in this context, but also in the context of much more illegal drugs. Going back to the Noble Lords from the front bench earlier question, there are legal uses for nitrous oxide, and the legislation is framed in such a way that those legal uses can be undertaken.